Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Wrestling Den. As the faithful Wrestling Den is on, I do apologize for last week. I was very sick, and I've had a couple deaths um, happen, so I wasn't able to do the show. We weren't able to go, but we are alive today on Thursday to keep it rolling. So we're your premier source for all things wrestling, of course. And what we're going to be talking about, past, present, and future today, is one of the greatest things to happen in the last week, which was Money in the Bank 2021, which was a step up from Hell in a Cell. So I'm actually excited to talk about this pay per view. I didn't think I would be because of Pat McAfee, but I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. So this is going to be a good conversation, I think, because there's actually some good things that happened on this pay per view, and we'll get right into it. With me, as always, is my co-host Nick and Kenny. They can introduce themselves. There you go, and we'll get going.
Well, I got to save all my word count for when we start talking about wrestling, right? Where'd everybody go? Oh, there he is. Go for it, Rick. I can't hear you.
Yeah, that's going to be annoying. Anyways, so one of the things that did happen before we get into it is I do want to pay my respects to Paul Orndorff, who did pass away last week. So we were going to talk about it. Unfortunately, because we did not have the show, we weren't able to do so. So paying respects to Paul Orndorff. If I had a 10 bell count queued up, I would have used it, but unfortunately, I do not. So, but that doesn't take away any significance for Paul Orndorff. If you don't know who he is, dude was a great wrestler. A lot of people, he was a heel by any means, so a lot of people did not like him as a character. But the guy was actually a really great father, and his son did tweet out that not many people liked his father because of him being a heel, but he taught him everything he knew, and he was probably one of the most selfless people. Believe it or not, one of the most selfless people to exist on this planet. So, God rest his soul, Paul Orndorff. That was a great legend that we had lost last week. So,
right.
Moving on into the Money in the Bank 2021. So I actually thought it was going to kick off at 6:30 and do like a pre-show then. It actually kicked off at 7 o'clock. So I don't know if you have Peacock and you tuned in, but if you did when I did, I had issues right off the bat. It would basically kick me out, and then because I'm using my PlayStation app, it would give me an error code. So I had to wait till exactly 7 o'clock to go in, and then we started off with the pre-show, which was Rey Mysterio and Dominic versus the Usos for the tag team championships. And I don't know if you've been following, but they had a storyline basically where the Usos, I guess so. Rey Mysterio and Dominic were tag team champions, and the Usos were going after the belts. So they had a storyline focused around that, and obviously the head of the table with Roman Reigns.
Right.
And everybody that is here, thank you for joining us, by the way.
Definitely. Always a pleasure to entertain. As far as the Usos and Dominic and Rey Mysterio go, I mean, Rey's always entertaining, and Dominic's, coming up as well. And then the Usos are, according to that list we were going over 2 weeks ago, one of the greatest WWE tag teams of all time. So.
Yeah, they're way high up on that list. The Mysterios, which they did this.
No, I meant the Usos, not the Mysterios.
We haven't gotten to them yet. That's the sad part. Aren't they like number 3 or 4 or something like that?
I'm not exactly sure, but I'm sure they'll be ranked up there pretty high because it's a WWE centric list. So
all I know is that I don't know what the Mysterios.
That's not to diminish their accomplishments or anything like that. It just cracks me up that they're just so quick to be like, oh yeah, New Day is the greatest thing. Spoiler, sorry. Go ahead.
And you got anything to add to that? And what you saw with that match?
I think Money in the Bank was great. I mean, the first match was great. I mean, it was just it's been a good week for WWE. It's just been a great week for WWE. I got excited when Vince came out and said hello. and he was only out there for 2 minutes.
Are you talking on Raw?
That we can get is what we can get.
Right. So, Rick,
Mhm.
with with the crowd, the first pay-per-view back with the crowd, I think they were really trying to step back into things, get back into a rhythm with a bang, and I really do think it was a much higher quality pay-per-view than Hell in the Cell. Like you said, honestly, what's funny about it is I had spoke to you, yesterday about this. Is it just felt like everyone was kind of going through the motions and spinning their wheels until the crowd came back, which is the lifeblood of the product anyway. And if you're not performing, and the Thunderdome is what it is, but without that organic feel in front of that crowd, it just seems like they put a lot of things on hold, and the reason it was received much better than Hell in the Cell was because there's a crowd there, and we can feed off of the crowd as much as the wrestlers can. You could tell all the wrestlers were really amped up.
You don't have to put in basically a cue an audience of your own and make pretend, because I feel like that was one thing that was what WWE had to do in the meantime was go back to these audio tracks that they had saved in their back pocket for real events when Roman Reigns was winning. They needed a fake audience cheer, so that actually helped them out in that long run to have those things already queued up for those situations. They had to use those though because if you remember early on and during COVID, it was just very quiet. They didn't even have the fake audio chair, so it was just very awkward to watch and listen to, and almost unbearable to the point where it almost seemed like it wasn't even worth doing. But then once they did that, they got into the groove. I think they actually still used some of the fake audio tracks during Money in the Bank for certain moments, certain people that probably wouldn't be cheered as much as they think they are.
Right. I know what you're saying. But I honestly think that a lot of it was organic this time. It didn't feel superimposed. It wasn't just a bunch of faces on a screen.
I felt like with the pay-per-view too, like Hell in a Cell, again, I'm watching and keeping in mind that Hell in a Cell was supposed to be about the cell, which it really was not. Money in the Bank actually had more focus. I mean, obviously not every match is going to be going for the briefcase on top of a ladder, but for the two that they had done, like I think it was they did the pre-show match, and then did they kick it off with the women's match? Did they kick it off with the women's Money in the Bank? I'm trying to remember if there's a match before that or not.
Oh, let me pull it up here. I don't quite remember. I'm all stuck on the ending and all that. That's what I'm excited to talk about.
I'm stuck on the fact that we have live people right now watching us. What up, everybody? How we doing? This is unheard of to see a chat going crazy right now.
Yeah, this is good.
Oh, thank you, OG. I am Macho Man Ricky Savage here. It's not just the looks. I am the World Heavyweight Champion, by the way. This guy gets it. He understands greatness when you see it.
Yeah, it says the women's Money in the Bank was next.
It was. So it was after the pre-show match. It was like the first official kickoff. So I didn't mind the match itself. I think one of the coolest spots that was that stood out was when Liv Morgan had ran up the ladder when Tamina was setting it. Like she didn't even have it open yet. She just picked it up, and then Liv like kind of jumped on it and ran up the ladder. I thought that was pretty cool. That was one of the big moments for me. Also, I guess she got power bombed by who power bombed her? I'm trying to remember. She jumped off the top, and was it Naomi? I think it was Naomi. She got her and she power bombed her onto somebody else on the ladder that was set. It was horizontal in the turnbuckle. And they said that was like one of the greatest spots.
Did they do the obvious every year that they do it spot where they slam someone through a ladder and it's obvious that it's made of wood in the middle? And it's just
I didn't see that though. I didn't see that. I didn't get to see it this year.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay. If you didn't see one, I'm glad they moved away from it.
Actually, interesting tidbit. I did watch. I was telling you yesterday. I watched the Broken Skull podcast with Chris Jericho. I wanted to go back and watch that one because I thought it was interesting that they had an AEW star and how they were able to go about doing that. And I never got to watch it, so I wanted to go and watch it. So I watched that with Stone Cold, and it was actually pretty easy for him to get the AOK from Vince. He thought he was going to have a hard time, but not to derail the conversation. But they did talk about in that the Shawn Michaels match that they had back in 2008 when Chris didn't have anything going on, Shawn didn't have anything going on, and they were basically like, well, why just stop here at doing the first whole part where he smashed his face into the highlight reel, and then they did that match. They're like, why stop there when we can drag this bad boy out? So that's when they ended up going further, and Chris Jericho won the world title at the Scramble, and then they had a ladder match for the world title which was one of the coolest things was Jericho and Shawn were fighting at the top and holding onto the strap and basically kind of like teetering back and forth before Jericho got the strap and won. But one of the biggest things was Jericho had trapped Shawn underneath the ladder. What's going on? How's everybody doing?
Just waving at everybody
to the crowd. Yeah, this is unheard of. Thank you,
Rick. Don't forget to squeeze in there the part where
go
Chris
follow
Jericho
us on the.
No, the part where Chris Jericho punches Shawn Michaels' wife in the face.
Yeah. So what kicked off that whole thing was Jericho actually got the best of Shawn, because when he turned heel, one of the biggest things was after he smashed Shawn's face into the highlight reel, it became the opening for Jericho to basically take advantage of Shawn every time he came out. Like when he wanted to fight, he would just punch him right in the eye, and then the dude would go down bleeding, and I'm hurt. But one of the things he did was he tried to do that to him one night when Shawn was quote unquote retiring because of his injury, and Shawn gets in front of his wife. There's like this moment that they have between him and Jericho, and then Jericho cocks the fist back, swings, and Shawn ducks it, and it hits her hits his wife right in the kisser, dude, and she goes down, and she just has to play dead.
Oh, right, yep. And that to me, it gets because he didn't pull his punch correctly either, and just blasted her, and he thought it was going to be a lot of heat about that too, but it ended up being, you got to blur the line between real and.
But I mean, that whole thing has been done like a million times. Like somebody's spouse gets, in the way, dude. It's been done all the way since Miss Liz, dude. Like that was kind of the thing. Was Miss Liz kind of kicked it off, but like that was like one of the recurring things. Even like Alexa Bliss, somebody who was relevant for Money in the Bank. Might as well bring that up. What was it? They had she had gotten attacked. AJ Lee had gotten attacked before. It's just been one of the things that they just do, and it's been time and time again proven to be one of those things. It's like it's supposed to motivate the other superstar. My wife got hit. Oh no, she's not okay. But it's
right.
bringing me out. But I think actually Jericho still ended up getting the best of Shawn for that, and then at the overall end got the best of him for the World Heavyweight title. So,
well, I wanted to point out that like a storyline like what you had mentioned to me yesterday was what kind of well, let's skip ahead to this Bobby Lashley Kofi
well, hold on
thing.
before we do. So there's a whole point to that whole thing. Let me just throw that in there. Chris Jericho had locked Shawn underneath the ladder. That's what I was getting at to bring this back to the women's match. Chris Jericho had one of the spots was Shawn was underneath the ladder. Chris drags the ladder over him, and then he goes over to where Shawn is, climbs up, so that way Shawn is stuck there underneath the ladder, underneath the bottom rung, and Chris is trying to get the title, and then Shawn uses the foot and sends him soaring with the ladder. So they had actually done that spot in Money in the Bank, and they've done it a million times. And what was interesting was that I guess Jericho actually invented that spot, and I didn't know that.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So that was the big thing, is that every time that you watch a Money in the Bank or any kind of ladder match and you see that spot, just tip your hat to Chris Jericho, because apparently Chris Jericho was the innovator who came up with that original spot with Shawn Michaels, and they've used it ever since in almost every ladder match that I've seen. So there you go.
So I just want to answer this question in the chat here before we jump into this Lashley point from earlier.
Is CM Punk actually signing with AEW?
No, here's what I genuinely feel. If he does sign with AEW, I'll be surprised, because they've been talking for, what is it now, 8 years about when and where CM Punk's going to come back. So I'll believe it when I see it, and I'll see it when I believe it, or whatever the heck. Okay, because until then, it's all just rumors and innuendo.
I feel like they don't really have a grip on that, though. There's no CM Punk hasn't had anything to come back for. There's not really anything left for him to do, in my opinion. That, I mean, yeah, he could go to AEW and he could do things there, But his big center, like the centerfold around CM Punk was he had an establishment to fight. That's what made Summer Punk so beautiful. That's why everything was so red hot, is because CM Punk had an establishment to fight. You know, he was the anti-hero. Here's the guy who's got something to say. You want to hear what he's got to say. You know, he goes off along his way and he does his own thing. By the way, last week was actually when he had gotten fired. It was the anniversary of when he had gotten fired. Something we were going to talk about.
On his wedding day. So that's always a tall death.
So it's like,
JT Heat says in the chat here to be skeptical about anything punk ever. And the truth is, like, that's exactly my point as well. It's like he's such a polarizing figure that they're just like, oh yeah, he's coming here, he's coming there. Like, and yeah, remember what was that event he went to in Chicago just to do that interview? And they were thinking,
my God, they all lost their minds too.
No, they were thinking he was going to show up at that AEW pay-per-view. And I think the only thing that actually did happen, you've ever seen that thing where he was like in a mask and in like a sweater, and he like did a run-in and like some local show. Did you see that?
Yeah. That was I forgot what the local show was, but
right. But that's going to be the extent. That's going to be the extent of his, participation in wrestling. I think. Like he's got, like you said, if he feels he's got anything to prove, if the money's right, if the story right, which I think is more important to him, he got paid. If the story's right, he'll come in. And I think they have to give him complete, creative control. I'd be surprised to see him on AEW, because I know he wants to be taken seriously as an entity. And, sometimes what goes on in that show isn't necessarily the most serious stuff.
Yeah, I think. But so let me ask you something. Speaking of AEW, do you think, I mean, they've been talking about, as far as like Daniel Bryan, maybe his last match in WWE was with Roman. And if it was, that's showing that he's got that much faith in Roman, which, don't get me wrong, Roman is not by any means a great wrestler to me. Like, we'll get into that. But in terms of a wrestler to kind of put over, at this point, it is a standard default that, for Daniel Bryan to end his match with Roman for WWE, it's not a bad way for him to go out. And it's not a bad way for Roman to take that and roll with it, because he will, and he'll capitalize on it. And it'll make him look for, as far as his championship reign. Obviously it'll give him some leverage. So I feel like that's something I could see happening more than CM Punk joining AEW. That's more realistic. I could see Bryan Danielson joining AEW.
Yeah, but I agree with that. And when I saw the reports,
Thank you, Zombie, by the way. I appreciate that. Right. We appreciate
you guys. And so with Bryan Danielson, and we can start calling him Bryan Danielson again if he signs with AEW.
That would be great. That would be optimal if we could.
And to me, it's just a fact that when I read the Bryan Danielson part of it, I went, okay, I could see that. And when they're like, oh, it's going to be Punk too, I went, I know everyone's riding the high from potentially Bryan Danielson going to AEW, but
look, we would all love to have CM Punk. Okay,
no, here's
like
the
a dream world. We would all love to have CM Punk.
You're Bryan Danielson, right? And you're like, oh, I'm going to be the big new signing at AEW. I'm going to come in. I'm going to work with these guys. I'm going to work with Cody. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And all of a sudden, you see these reports like CM Punk, and you're like, that mother, like. Can
you imagine though if they both debuted? That would be crazy. Can you imagine that? Like, what if Bryan Danielson was to do his debut, but then he gets attacked by CM Punk? That is something that would have never been, that I would have never seen, never been done. The only thing I could think of close to that, having two superstars from WWE come in at the same time, is obviously Nash and Hall. But instead of working together, having Bryan Danielson come in and then having CM Punk steal that thunder, can you imagine that?
The amount of heat there. Yeah.
Oh my God.
They'd have to run with each other for a while, because you gotta protect Kenny Omega, because you can't, if you put either one of those guys in there, they're instantly bigger stars than him. And that's nothing against Kenny. I know people love Kenny Omega, but the moment Bryan Danielson or CM Punk hits the screen, they're automatic, on watch. You know what I mean? As far as his title reign goes. And so they need to protect him. So they would need to have something big for Bryan Danielson to do, and him versus CM Punk would be a really big deal. So, I mean, I could see it, but time will tell. I will tune in if either one of those guys actually signs and is there. I'll watch. And to me, that's the point of making a big signing like that, is to get a guy who, is going to turn over some of these WWE centric viewers. You got to get them watching AEW. So Rick, just to breeze through here, let's get back to the Money in the Bank real quick so we can fix.
And I will say I do agree with my boy Jesse over there about All Out would be the opportune moment. And so, hey, look, you got some AEW. So, guys, since you're just tuning in now, we do appreciate you tuning in. If you want to follow us for more content, you can follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Den TM, and you can follow us on Facebook at The Wrestling Den. Keep track with all the cool stuff that I like to post, because I like to post Macho Man stuff. Because I am the World Heavyweight Champion, by the way. Macho Man, Ricky Savage, yeah.
I've decided I'm no selling every time you mention the title.
All I know is, Nick, you might have a chance this week, because this is so far has been a great debate, even though we kind of like.
Except like it's not really a debate if we agree on everything.
Yeah, this guy's kind of wait. Well, we did do 50 to 25 of the greatest tag teams 2 weeks ago. So, are we forming an alliance? Is this happening right now? Are we becoming a tag team?
We could be the 2-man power trip.
What up, Papa Nick? Apparently, you're not the only Nick. There's a Papa Nick in here as well.
Nick. There's a bunch of Nicks, a bunch of fans. Glad everybody came out to watch the stream here, and let's give them some more content.
Let's give them some more content.
Your point to the Bobby Lashley and Kofi Kingston feud was you were pointing out to me that you thought Kofi Kingston, would have had a better chance and may have walked away with the W.
You didn't want to talk AJ Styles and Omos.
I want to give credit. I want to give credit where credit's due about the great point you made yesterday, and then we can jump back to that as we want. Everyone knows what they get from AJ Styles. So
I honestly, even those matches, those were kind of the matches that like we're gonna get like a 50-50 on when we talk about it. So I go ahead with Kofi Kingston and Bobby Lashley, because that was actually probably one of my favorite matches I watched of Money in the Bank.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, like you said, everyone was worried that it was going to be, another squash, like the Brock Lesnar over Kofi Kingston for the title a while back. And I think that you said like it made more sense storyline wise because Bobby Lashley was hanging out with the girls. He was being passive to an extent. And then Kofi told him, that he was soft.
And the New Day won both times over them, which, by the way, those attires that they wore, the Green Ranger and the White Ranger attires, they made the perfect sense for Money in the Bank too, color scheme, and they didn't even Kofi didn't wear it. He wore some, I think it was a purple Power Rangers for like Wild Force or some. I don't even know what it was. All I know is that
I didn't watch anything past Turbo.
So the last 2 weeks, I think it was Raw, the last two Raws. So the first one Kofi had won over Bobby Lashley, and then the second time it was Xavier Woods going against Bobby Lashley, and he pulled out a pin and won. And then that's when Kofi called Bobby Lashley soft. And I think at that point, we would have had a different narrative had Kofi not said anything. I think going into the pay-per-view, Bobby wouldn't have had that passion that Kofi gave to him. So basically, Bobby wouldn't have a leg to stand on going into the pay-per-view. So had this match played out like this, after Kofi doing all that, then it would have looked like the Brock Lesnar situation. But because Kofi made that little extra remark about how he went soft, which was obvious for the storyline to do, and it was the greatest thing to do because the match that we got, which looked like a squash match, now all falls on Kofi's shoulders. Because had he not said that, he would not have motivated the champ, and the champ would have stepped up to just dominate him, which is what the almighty Bobby Lashley does.
No, and it makes Lashley look stronger. To your point, and Kofi, it gives him that mountain to climb as well, to get back, and find his edges and stuff too. So, I think that was a well put together storyline. And again, like I said a couple weeks ago about how can they get back on their feet as far as this stuff goes, tell cohesive stories, and that's what you need to do, and have cohesive storylines that make sense. And if you do that, then your stars shine brighter. And to me, the story makes sense. You captivate an audience. To me, though, all of those things are very important, and it feels like they did captivate an audience here with Money in the Bank, which is very interesting because was it 11 years ago or 10 years ago, almost exactly as far as Money in the Bank goes, is when the landscape changed once before, when CM Punk beat John Cena at Money in the Bank. Was that 2010?
2011. Actually, no, it was 2011 because it's Money in the Bank 2011. I'm pretty damn sure it's 2011 Money in the Bank that he beat Cena. Oh yeah, because
Okay, either
actually
way,
it was
10, 11 years ago.
it was like
Go ahead.
3 days or 4 days ago that was it July. I forget which actual day it was. It if I look at the calendar, I can tell you. I think it was actually, if not July 15th, maybe July 16th when that happened. When that
Gotcha.
match went down.
Yeah,
Um,
it was 2011.
and also, I just want to throw this out here because Joey mentioned it with Bobby, with Oldberg. So don't get me wrong, because with Big E winning the Money in the Bank, which I'm happy for him, and it was definitely a well deserved moment for him, even though Peacock screwed that up.
Right.
I I will say this: everybody wants to see like the whole thing with Lashley and Big E. No, you don't. You do not want to see Lashley versus Big E. You want to see Lashley versus Oldberg, because guess what you're gonna get? Oldberg wins, and then we all get that match where Big E gets to face Oldberg, dude. That's what we want to see. Ever since those three sat down and did that whole meme where they were talking about like big, sweaty, meaty men, lock it up. That was one of the big topics that Big E talked about with the New Day, was that he wanted to face Oldberg, and if you give it this way, I think it's going to work out a lot better in terms of meme quality. Plus, you get everything that you ever wanted that you didn't know you wanted, which would be Oldberg versus Big E.
Yeah, but the thing with as you're saying, Goldberg is Goldberg. I believe that, like, unfortunately, all he's really good for ever since the debacle with Undertaker is like a solid 2 minutes, okay, 2 to 5 minutes tops. So you got to write a story around that concept, and for Lashley to bully these other guys, and then Goldberg to show up and be like, oh, you're next, kind of thing, and maybe Lashley can turn the tables on him, and maybe Goldberg will actually be next instead.
I mean, Lashley versus Brock, now that Joey's mentioned that, would be a really solid match to watch. But would you really want to watch that? Because I feel like it wouldn't go I don't think they would give Lashley his just due in that match. I feel like if Brock was to come in the match, and this is something that me and Nick were talking about the other day, just about Brock Lesnar, how Brock actually went from somebody that I didn't want to see on TV to I would take this man coming out right now if it meant like defeating Roman Reigns and taking his title away from him.
No, well, Rick,
push the Brock party button.
It's the old Eddie Murphy concept of, like, if you're starving to death and someone gives you like a Ritz cracker, and that's what Brock Lesnar
is. He's the Ritz cracker.
We're starving for big star power.
I can't with his glasses, man.
And that's why. Episode. I know we're jumping forward a little bit with the Cena thing. So to give a little bit of a spoiler there with the John Cena thing, like I told you, the reason the crowd received him the way they did is, and like Jim Cornette has said in the past, how can we miss you if you won't go away? So suddenly we've missed John Cena because we've seen what the WWE looks like without John Cena. And so nothing against Roman, nothing against Seth Rollins or Drew McIntyre or Bobby Lashley or any of these top guys right now, but none of them are John Cena. And even then, we used to be like, well, John Cena's not The Rock, or John Cena's not Stone Cold Steve Austin, But the truth of the matter is, John Cena was a bigger star than just about anyone they have there. And then the same goes for Brock. And that's why you are like, Brock, thank you for that.
But because it's also because they're not in the title picture. And I think that's a big thing that, obviously being fans of these guys now is because these guys aren't being shoved down our throats like they were before. There's that breathability in that room to allow these guys to come back. Like, obviously, John Cena got the biggest pop of the night. Nobody's going to question that. The biggest pop of the night went to John Cena, and respectfully so. The man deserves it. He's a workhorse. You can't knock him, as much as we'd love to for his amazing work from 2007 all the way to 2011. As much as you'd love to knock that work, the fact that he's not in that picture anymore and he's not basically steamrolling guys that deserve it, seeing guys like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan getting stepped over by this kind of guy, now that you're not seeing that kind of John Cena, he can do whatever he wants and he can't do no wrong, just like Brock Lesnar. Like, Brock Lesnar was the perfect heel, so I can't even hate on Brock for that, for coming in after 2005. Here comes the pain, Brock Lesnar, and coming back and picking up right where he left off. Honestly, it was the best thing for Brock to do that, because look how he, as a character, he was dominant back in 2005, and then coming back, he was dominant again. So honestly, Brock didn't even do anything wrong, even though we were all like, well, this guy obviously was like B tier at best in MMA.
In the chat here, they're talking about the concept of heel Cena, and I just wanted to throw this out there. No, the closest Cena ever got to being heel and it really making sense was that Embrace the Hate stuff with Kane. And I think that they realized that when Punk, in the summer of Punk and all that stuff, when Punk was the top face, before they turned him heel, they probably just should have turned Cena heel. And I think they learned from that. And that's why this time they pulled the trigger on Roman and made him a heel. And as you can see, that paid dividends because the head of the table, Roman Reigns, is far more interesting than the post-Shield version of him that we've ever witnessed. Everyone loved to boo him, and now they respect him as far as Roman Reigns goes.
He got the itch that he deserved because he's able to be this heel character, and now that he doesn't need the people to cheer him, he can be champion, which is one of the biggest things they didn't want on him, and one of the reasons why people booed him so much. Now he can be champion without people take the belt off of him. And he can be a heel, and he's got Paul Heyman in his corner. Dude, the guy is unstoppable. He may have taken off the flak jacket, but his flak jacket is Paul Heyman, the title, and being a heel, dude.
But 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, did you ever imagine yourself, praising Roman Reigns for his efforts? Because honestly,
yes, because it was going to happen, dude. It was going to happen eventually.
Eventually, and like I said, that John Cena had to crawl so Roman Reigns could walk here, because to me, so he could walk. Them not turning Cena heel. No, so he could walk. He still hasn't. They still haven't ran. They don't have enough fans to use running analogies. So, to me, that the whole thing with Cena turning heel. Now it's a little too late for that. Cena's more of in his Legend of the West run. Like he's now. You know what I'm saying? He's not
I know exactly what you're saying.
That guy. He's never going to be the top heel. He's never going to be a consistent figurehead on television. So now it's just like, just let him have his his going away party kind of thing, and just let him do his John Cena thing. And if he can give people the rub on the way there, like him versus Roman potentially, when he tried to give Roman the rub previously, or Taker tried to give it to him, or Brock tried to give it to Roman, everyone was just like, no, we don't like face Roman Reigns. Get this guy off my screen. And now you have a chance to kind of redo that as the head of the table and Roman.
And when Roman eventually does go face, because he will, he's not going to stay heel forever. It's just something that does. His character is diverse enough to where Roman has gotten better on the microphone, especially during even 2 years ago when he was on the mic with John Cena. He's gotten better on the mic. This heel run is basically going to be the thing that irons him out, so that way when he does eventually go face, you're going to cheer for him. And that's just because he's developed into this character that you like.
Hold on, though. It might be like Seth Rollins, though, where Seth is a heel. He goes through this cycle.
And they cheer for him. And then when he's a face, everybody hates him.
Yeah, but Seth Rollins, he's Monday Night Messiah.
That's because he's not genuine. I don't think he's genuine when he's a face. It's not who Seth Rollins is to me. Like, Seth Rollins has always been, if you look at how the Shield collapsed the first time around, it was Seth Rollins. So for Seth Rollins to be a face and burn it down and come out with the title, I think it's just not natural for him as a face to do it. I think what really is the gas in his tank is being a heel, and that's what makes him cheered for.
Just being a jerk, and he's got such a punchable face. No, he's got such a punchable face, dude. He does, dude. Just like Shawn Michaels. If you watch heel Shawn Michaels and he's chewing his gum in someone's face, and he's like got that stupid smirk on his face. This is pre back injury. Like when you see Shawn's face, you're just like, I want to punch that guy in his stupid
That's why
face.
Him versus Undertaker was the biggest thing, dude.
Yeah.
In the Hell in a Cell, because at that moment there was nobody that was more hated backstage than Shawn Michaels. So seeing this guy, dude, I can only imagine the amount of people that were sitting there watching that match. Like, all right, dude, he's in the Hell in a Cell, he's locked in there. Like, dude, you're gonna get kicked, dude. It was bound to happen.
No, and like I said, and there's no better. Like Shawn needed his ass kicked on that Sunday. And there was no better than the Undertaker. And to me, there still is no better ass kicker. If someone needs to take a beat, then Taker's the one to give it to him. So,
yo, by the way, next week can we book Papa Hooks versus Papa Nick? I got to see this, dude.
So many Papas.
Yeah, dude. All the Papas.
They got the X's in there too, man. Like, yeah, I'm with it.
This is a perfect feud, dude. We could have a tag team match next week, dude. Papa Hooks and Papa Nick versus Nick.
And the thing with he's saying, I was molding my life after heel Shawn Michaels. Honestly, what's something that drew me into wrestling too, which is why we should, speaking of Shawn Michaels, Rick, should we wish Shawn Michaels a happy birthday?
A very happy birthday to Shawn Michaels himself, HBK, because today is his birthday. He just turned 56, in case you were wondering.
The Heartbreak Kid, the showstopper, the icon, the main event.
Which is funny because I brought up Chris Jericho too, because Shawn during that storyline even told Chris, and this was one of the greatest things, and this is what kept pushing that edge for the storyline, was that Shawn, Chris Jericho was upset with the crowd because he was a face. He came back as the code breaker, and people were booing him because Shawn Michaels had basically feigned a knee injury against Batista to win the match at was it Backlash that they did that at? And then Jericho's calling out Shawn for it, and basically you lied to the fans, you lied to Batista, you lied to me, and Shawn's just like, I didn't lie to anybody. I told you I would do whatever it takes to win. The only person I technically lied to was you, Chris Jericho. And that was the whole thing that sparked it off, that Jericho was basically, he was right what he was saying about Shawn. Shawn's getting cheered and he's doing all these deceptive things, but the crowd's going to back him. The biggest thing for that, though, with Shawn Michaels was the fact that he said, you're just mad because you're never going to be me. No matter how much you accomplish, no matter all the accolades that you get, you will never be Shawn Michaels.
He'll always be the dime store Shawn Michaels, right?
Yeah, exactly. He'll never even come close to his career. And that was the craziest thing that dude, that storyline was so nuts. And it's just I know that we're talking Money in the Bank.
No, obviously we need to do a week's worth of this feud between Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho.
It was so good too, because it was out of nowhere, and it was definitely a dead zone time. If you look at the feud in hindsight, neither one of these guys had something going on, and these guys were like one of the two top people in 2008, 2007. You obviously had Triple H and everybody else. It was the Ruthless Aggression era. But as far as guys, you didn't have Rock and Austin anymore. So this was I was talking about last night. Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels kind of stepped up. Triple H and everybody kind of stepped up their game to become that next level guy. So even though there wasn't another Rock Austin, these are your guys that you were watching. But
no, I was just reacting to the chat. I am still listening to you. But what's cracking me up? He says here, 56 looks rough on our boy there. He's talking about Shawn Michaels. I was telling you this last night, Rick. Who's the one guy in wrestling history who's undefeated? The one guy, Father Time.
Father Time is the undefeated wrestler.
So he always goes over. Father Time always goes over. And these dudes just get old, and all we can do is.
I thought we were going to talk Hulk Hogan for a second.
No, Hogan loses too. Hogan does lose. I've seen it before. I've seen his shoulders pinned to the mat
by himself too. So I want to bring this up since we're there about Shawn Michaels and how he looks. So that whole thing with the highlight reel and him getting smashed into the TV screen. I know that focused around his eye. And if you notice, have you seen Shawn and you look at his eye, how it's it kind of looks like he's got a lazy eye these days? Do you think that happened from that? Do you think that actually was kind of one of the side effects?
No. But his lazy, I think there's also that time in the late 90s, he got in a bar fight, and I think he got the totally crap kicked out of him by 3 guys or something.
Oh,
I think that's from.
But it wasn't as bad though. It wasn't as bad up until after that point. So maybe it got worse. Because that bar fight was what basically started it. But I think
I just want to point something out about Father Time real quick too. Is same thing with Ric Flair. If you look at Ric Flair, and Ric Flair looked like Ric Flair in the 80s, in the early 90s, and then he's like Ric Flair in the late 90s, and he's still got the full head of hair, and it's feathered, and it looks great. And then he comes in as the GM for Raw or SmackDown, whichever one it was, and he still looks like Ric Flair. And then suddenly, seriously, over the course of 2 years, when he becomes Evolution Ric Flair, I'm just
dude, oh my God.
I'm Rick's looking old. And then I saw him again, and then he gets closer to his retirement, and I'm just ooh, he's looking pretty old. And then I remember seeing him for the first time in TNA, and I was like, dang, Rick is just looking like The Walking Dead. And I was a bit concerned, but then I realized, dudes just get old, and Rick carried himself so well into his 50s and stuff that I guess I just considered Ric Flair timeless, and I never thought he was going to look like that. So to Papa Nick's point in the chat here too, maybe you just thought Shawn was timeless and you never thought he was going to get old, but it just is. It just is the way to no. And to JT Heat in the chat here too. Like Ric Flair, yes, he always looked old, but he looks like the crypt keeper at a certain point.
But no,
like
you are right though,
because
2007 GM Ric Flair, he had even little Nate like Charles Robinson's hair. He had the shorter haircut, the shorter blonde hair, like that you remember seeing in like '89 Ric Flair. He had the shorter haircut. Dude was looking great. Like as a GM, it looked like he could take off, the slacks and just start going. He looked great. I mean, obviously he was wearing a shirt, so I don't know if we could really judge off of that.
Right. No, and what was really crappy about him wearing that shirt too, it was because people in the WCW dressing room were like giving him such a hard time about his body. And like, I seen worse, at least he didn't look like a piece of beef jerky like Hulk Hogan always does.
But if you watch Flair, like you can't even knock on the guy even when he took his shirt off and the boobs are down here and the the guy knows how to go. He knows what to do in the ring. He's got his whole set, and you're gonna get the 5 moves out of him. But that's what you're gonna get is you're gonna get entertained because when Ric Flair, what was it? Who was it that he did that to Chris Jericho during the whole Shawn Michaels thing, dude? Like he came out and he got in Chris Jericho's face and he started just like, "You and me in the parking lot, let's go!" And then he walks out and leads Chris Jericho out to the parking lot. And guess who's waiting for him? Triple H, because the whole thing was Shawn after Shawn got attacked, and that was the thing. Like at that time, like Ric Flair, like was a big integral part of just being in WWE, just being a centerpiece, whether it was Evolution or being the GM. Like it was really cool having Ric Flair on TV. But to kind of reel it back, I don't know. I want to say I want to focus on the one thing I want to focus on the most about Money in the Bank was Edge versus Roman. I think honestly we could kind of sum up. So obviously with the women's Money in the Bank match. The one thing that happened that nobody expected was Nikki Cross won, and then she cashed in on Raw the next night and won the title, which is crazy to me. Right. That character, that superhero gimmick that we were talking about that never ever gets over, somehow got over. And you know what? The biggest thing for her, I will say, congratulations.
No, it gets over, Rick. It gets over, but it just doesn't have a shelf life. How long can a super?
Jericho does have for his body, by the way. Zora, thank you for joining us. By the way, have a great night.
Jericho looks like silly putty in the microwave now. Like, like honestly, like, but again, because Father Time's undefeated, brother. Like seriously, Father Time is chopping Jericho's chest into fucking mashed potatoes. Sorry, swear jar. That's my first one. Oh man. So either way. It just is what it is.
This guy's never forget the swear jar. Oh, dude.
It was Jericho's body, dude.
This is a momentous occasion, everybody, because this is the first time that Nick has dropped a quarter of the swear jar. And if you know me, if you know Macho Man Ricky Savage, I'm gonna be the first one.
The madness took over, dude.
I haven't sworn once this show, so this is probably the greatest show we've had. But oh, dude. So to wrap that up with
I love Chris Jericho. Hold on. Let me reel it back. Real quick. I love Chris Jericho. I love the Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla. However, like the dude is just like he's looking like the Ayatollah of the Krispy Kreme donuts. So like it just is what it is.
The Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla became the Ayatollah of Coca-Cola, dude. That's what happened.
Got him, dude. No. All the love in the world to Chris Jericho, though. In all seriousness, but it just goes to show, like I said, though, Father Time just runs. He wreaks havoc, dude. He's got an undefeated streak like no other. He trumps Oldbergs, whatever. See, Father Time, and there's nothing any of us can do about it. We just have to deal with it.
I think with Nikki Cross, right. I hate talking about these people because these matches suck. But like Nikki Cross, good for her, superhero in training. Shit. I would just throw that out there. Rosie doing Hurricane.
There's the swear jar though. You only had like 5 minutes left, and you couldn't do it. I couldn't hold out. I will say, Rick, I just wanted to your point about Nikki Cross. I just think that a shelf life like that, it was weird. It was like when we all liked Nikki Cross and the pairing with Alexa Bliss, they weren't really giving him a lot of premier run. And then suddenly when they saddle her with a gimmick that we're just like, yikes, this is not good. They're like, yeah, now we'll give her the Raw title, like the Raw Women's title. This will be great. And sometimes it's so backward. Like, not everything can be a home run. Not everything you put on TV and not every storyline you do. So
yeah, but what are other things that have been given to us that are like Nikki Cross, where it's like, it's almost like they're doing the fan service, but then they take it away real quick because that's just kind of how Vince and WWE operate. They gave us Nikki Cross as this superhero. She's won the title. Now watch how fast it takes. Okay, now this is where you can make a believer out of me or something could happen. But what happens now is, what if she loses it fast? Which I expect to happen. What if they gave the fan service, she won the title, she won Money in the Bank, which would be stupid to kind of take it off of her at this point. Because you do that, then it was all for naught. But who cares? Because that's WWE for you. Here's your fan service. Here's a superhero. She overcame the odds. She became Miss Money in the Bank. She won the title. Now let's screw her over. Why not? Why not?
Right.
Especially if you feed her to Charlotte.
No. And speaking of Charlotte, and that was the other part. It's like Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. Those are women you could believe could probably kick my ass, your ass, and most of the guys on the WWE rosters.
Dude, oh my god.
But Nikki Cross. The reason it doesn't have a shelf life is because you don't believe she could square up against a Rhea Ripley or a Charlotte Flair. And speaking of Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, if we want to run into that real quick, I know you're not a big Charlotte guy, but
if anybody needs to know, if you don't know, now you know. I hate Charlotte Flair as much as I hate Pat McAfee, and that's with every single boiling blood in my body.
Right. Yeah. No, and then honestly, with Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, you get exactly what you expect. Some of these things aren't as notable as others, but again, Charlotte and Rhea, you're going to get a good match. You're going to get a believable match. The big thing was her like flipping off the crowd and this kind of like attitude era. Yeah, this attitude era-esque, heel.
No, the match was actually it was actually a pretty good match for what it was.
And what you expected. You don't like Charlotte. You don't like Charlotte, but you got to give respect to the fact that probably wasn't in the script for her to flip off the fans. But Charlotte is also aware that she could probably get away with murder, and they still won't do nothing about it. So,
exactly. And you know what? At this point, I'm expecting her to obviously beat Ric Flair's 16 title run. She's going to be the one to do it because of how fast they've had her climb up that ladder. Like, I hate Charlotte, but like that match, as far as a payoff. Because, again, one of the stories that's been going on is that Charlotte's been injuring, like, Rhea week in and week out with her leg. So, obviously, it was leading up to, oh, man, she's going to do the figure eight. Like, that's it. Once she locks it in, Rhea's going to have no choice but to tap. So, I saw what was going to come. I saw the outcome of the match. I saw what was going to happen. And it's like the only thing that saved Rhea was that on that Raw, she had a disqualification to save her from keeping the belt because they were like, well, yeah, of course you're going to win the belt tonight because guess what? Once Money in the Bank comes, you're losing the belt. So give it to her via disqualification and then make the stipulation that if you do get disqualification, that Money in the Bank, you will lose the belt no matter what. So now Rhea had no choice but to tap into Charlotte Flair and give her the belt. So it was expected. But as far as the match goes, you know what? I got to give him props because as the most picky person when it comes to Charlotte Flair, I'd never like to say Charlotte Flair had a good match. But her and Rhea have chemistry, and obviously they brought that A game to Money in the Bank. Despite me not being interested in it, it was interesting to everybody else, and it gave me
credit where credit's due. Is what
exactly, exactly,
yeah, for sure. Yep. And I know we did talk briefly about Big E and his win, so congrats to Big E. It's good to see him get over.
Yeah, we can't talk about it though because Peacock kept screwing up.
Here's the truth about Money in the Bank as well. It's like every other Money in the Bank winner is a good thing. It's like it's such a mixed bag now. It used to be guy wins it, waits his turn, cashes in, becomes the champion. It was kind of like a runway to a title run.
But now they've had a big moment and they took it away from me because of Peacock, dude.
But you don't know. But it's what they do with it afterwards. The Money in the Bank title win or the Money in the Bank briefcase win is only as good as how you cash it in and how it pays off. Because winning a ladder match is winning a ladder match, and we've seen so many Money in the Bank winners now. We're like, okay, it's unique when Edge does it the first time. It's unique when Punk did it to Edge, kind of thing. But like, you know what I mean, how it just depends on where they go with it from here. And speaking of the antithesis to Nikki Cross's potential really short-lived title reign, let's talk about a title reign that's been going on for a long time. And we did talk about you know, the John Cena
Zombie,
aspect
thank
of
you
it.
for joining us. Have a great night, Zombie.
Oh yeah, hold on, heading out.
Seriously,
thanks for watching. We're wrapping up here anyways. So with that, you know, with Roman Reigns and Edge, me and you kind of touched on this yesterday. And to your point was that, you know, it was just to get to this match, you know, for Edge. Like,
that was a big thing too. Everybody's like, "Oh, well, we want to see Spear versus Spear." It was one of those things that it was bound to happen. And honestly, I think they actually held off on that, the Spear versus Spear thing, all the way until the end. And they didn't do as many spots circulating around Spear versus Spear counters that I was actually expecting in this match. But the big thing was, I don't know about you, but I don't think Edge was ever going to win this match. I don't think that was ever on the table. As much as I would love to say it would be nice that had Edge won, I just didn't see it being possible with the fact that he had so much momentum going into this match, with the Usos interfering with him week in and week out. He'd come out and he would basically just tear up the table, and then he would even like get it in on Roman. And you know how things work. If a guy sets up a table, chances are that guy's going through the table. So much like that, Edge getting the advantage through the SmackDowns, whether it's coming out and beat up Roman and getting his hands on Roman, or beating up Jimmy and Jay, it was all leading to that Edge was not going to win. And that's what I knew was going to happen, because Edge had all this momentum going in, where it's like, oh, he's going to get his hands on him. There was no way in hell, and I say that with Vince McMahon, no way, no chance in hell that Edge was going to win the Universal title because of that.
Right.
Roman's your boy. No,
and Rick, also to your point, if they were going to make Edge the champion, they would have already done it. Like the time for that has passed. So
and this was a good way to, but look at what it did. So this was a very good way, and this is what kind of it shocked me, but it shouldn't have. It's just shame on me for not paying attention and just realizing that they could still do this. I forget that because Jon Moxley's in AEW that I write off the Shield completely. But there are still two members of the Shield that are there that are bound to help each other and cross paths, because that's your Randy Orton and John Cena, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. I keep forgetting that, like Seth Rollins, just keep him in your back pocket from now on, because that guy's going to be the guy that when you don't think he's going to come out and interfere with something Roman Reigns, he's going to do it. That's their opportunity to get that shock factor, which, you know, and then he obviously had a run in with Edge, so it was all connected. It was all correlated together, and it's going to set up for SummerSlam now. You got two big matches set up. You've got Edge versus Seth Rollins for SummerSlam, and obviously with John Cena returning and getting the biggest pop of the night, you're gonna have Seth. You're gonna have Seth Rollins and Edge, and you're gonna have John Cena versus Roman Reigns. Is John Cena gonna win? Probably not, but you could have two great matches.
But you're gonna tune in to see if Cena can win, because that's the thing, whether he will or not. The point is, like, how are they going to put Roman over Cena in this setting? How do you do that? How do you bring Cena in just to put Roman over? Like, that's the draw. So with that, I mean, that concludes Money in the Bank for sure. With that, Rick, I mean, I appreciate everybody's participation in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening in. You know, Rick, let them know. Tell them where they can find us.
If you guys want to find us next week, we are live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find us on Rhode Island Broadcasting. You can find us on Sports Unfolded. You can even find us on Facebook at The Wrestling Den. If you want to see me just tweet hilarious stuff during pay-per-views, or if I happen to be watching Raw, no SmackDown, I will not watch Pat McAfee. But if you want to follow our Twitter, we have at Wrestling Den TM. So that's a good popular place to find me talking mad trash. But as far as our Wrestling Den goes, we like to post stuff. We like to post polls. So we're probably going to have a poll. Who do you think did it best this week? Honestly, I don't think this week was more of a matter of me versus Nick for the title, because that's kind of the running gag is Nick going to take my belt from me? Maybe. As far as tonight goes, I think, if anything, there was so much solidarity tonight that, like, me and Nick have been eye to eye. So I think next week, you're going to want to tune in, because we are going to finish up. We're going to wrap up the 50 greatest tag teams of all time. I think we're going to go from 25 to 1 next week. You definitely want to see that. And the forming of this tag team right here, The Mega Powers, yeah, I think that's gonna be a great thing to watch next week. Yeah. Yeah, get the Mega Powers. Mean Gene, Mean Gene, Mean Green Screen, Mean Gene. Oh yeah. I'm telling you, it's a
No,
fun
and the other thing,
time.
Rick, is join us next week. You can find us right here back, same Matt time, same Matt channel, as far as the Wrestling Den goes. So
We appreciate you guys coming out. Seriously, this has been a great episode, and we can't have we couldn't have done it without all of you guys showing up and participating. I thank you guys. I thank you all coming out. My boy Joey, we're gonna give a shout out to Papa Nick. We might see you next week, Papa Nick. We got basically we could be having
everybody who was participating in the chat.
We could be having a tag team match next week with Papa Hooks and Papa Nick, dude. So we can see it. So I do appreciate you all coming out. We appreciate you coming out. It was a great episode. Thanks to you guys. Hopefully we get to see you tuning in next week. And as far as that goes, we appreciate you sticking around and have watched Money in the Bank with us and live coverage. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Well, not so live coverage. This was live. That was live. This
we're live now.
Wasn't quite so live. But either way, we'll live to see another day.